Hi there guys, got a video here for you today on the Crown. What we're going to be doing is giving it a full strip down and a service. Now this is my Mark 1 Crown and I've had this for quite some time now. In that time it's never really let me down. Over the past year and a half or so it hasn't been shot at all. So what I'm going to be doing today is taking it apart, giving it a service, and then putting it back together again. I don't think there's nothing wrong with the rifle, but I don't want to get down the range and find out that the regulator's playing up or anything like that. So we're going to do a preemptive service and I'll show you what's been done to the insides of this one. Let's get started. So as you can see here, I've already removed the bottle and emptied the reg just to save us a little bit of time. So next I'm going to remove the barrel. That's done with a 3mm Allen key in these two screws at the top here. Don't need to do them out all the way, but they just need to be loose so that you can pull the barrel out. Once that's out, we need to take out the power wheel and the safety. The power wheel's done with a 2mm Allen key. It's just the little canter head screw in the front there. Once that's off, be careful, there might be a ball bearing stuck to the other end of that. We can simply take the other ball bearings out, and then we can take the little springs out with a toothpick or a small Allen key. To get the safety out, it's just this here. What we need to do is take a 2.5mm Allen key and just take it out. There is a small O-ring on the bottom of that, and it can be lodged in the rifle, so just be mindful of that. Once those pieces are off, we can take the stock off. Stock's nice and easy to get off. It's just this 3mm Allen key at the back and the 4mm at the front here. And the stock just lifts off like so. Right, next I'm going to take the trigger out, and that's done with these 3 pins here. This first one is the trigger plate, this second one is a sear stop, and this third one holds the trigger sear in the rifle. So they can just be pushed out. I just use a little wooden toothpick, although you can use a 1.5mm Allen key. There's this trigger plate, sear stop, and the trigger sear. There's the trigger sear there. As you can see, this is one that I've polished. Also changed the angle slightly. I do have a video showing how to do this on the channel already, so I won't cover it in this video. But there it is. Now that that's out, we can take the hammer, hammer spring and hammer spring shuttle. That's done by using a 1.5mm Allen key in this hole here. These can be quite tight from the factory, so just be careful. There it comes. And with that out, we can remove the hammer spring adjuster, put that to one side, and then tip the hammer, hammer spring and the hammer spring shuttle out. Now this looks a little different from your one. I've got PTFE guides in both ends of the spring and I've reshaped the hammer. I have got a video showing me reshaping the hammer, so again I won't cover it in this video, but just as a reason why I do this is just to provide a better ramp for the sear to ride up. Just improves the cock-in motion, so the sear rides up on that nice shallow slope instead of the more 45ish one that's on there from FX. And then the spring guides obviously just so that the spring is nice and free to rotate, but has a nice guide in it so that it doesn't bend as it gets compressed. There's a long one on this end and just a shallow top hat one in this end. Right, put that to one side. Once that's out, I'm going to remove the cocking arm and the pellet probe. So it's quite easy. All you have to do is flip it upside down and it's just this screw here. And that's 1.5mm Allen key. Once that's out, there's a pin in there which we need to push out from this side. And to push this out, we can just use a 1.5mm Allen key. Push it in the hole there. It can be quite stiff. Then pull the pin from the bottom. Once that pin's out, we can just slide all of this back. Now on my one, I've got the spring and ball bearing in the side of this shuttle here, so I have to be careful as it pulls out. And as you can see, there it is there. This wasn't installed from the factory, I had to install it after the fact. And I don't think the Mark IIs have it either, although it is shown on the FX diagrams. I'll pull that out there. Then we set this to one side. Okay, next we can take out the valve. It's done with a 4mm Allen key, just in this front here. Tip the spring out, and the valve sometimes needs a little pull with some pliers. Now very carefully, obviously you don't want to damage anything, but just gripping this shaft here is pretty safe. Pull that out. There it is there. Looks to be in good condition, so I'll put that to one side. With that out of the way, we can remove the valve. Now I'm going to be using my little valve puller tool. Put it in there, screw the little aluminium thing up, the little aluminium piece at the end, then pull the valve out. This is obviously the valve seat. Looks to be in alright condition. I'll replace the O-ring on the outside, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Give it a clean up and that'll be fine. Next I'll remove the calibre adjuster here. So to do that, it's just a 2mm Allen key in the top here. We're just going to be removing these two grub screws. This first one has a spring on the end, so just be careful. There's also a ball down in here, so we'll get that out now. And there it comes there. Then this next one is two grub screws on top of each other to create a lock. So take the first one out, and then the second. There they come there. Then we can push calibre adjuster out from this side. There it comes out. We can disassemble this a little further. That's with a 2.5mm Allen key in this hole here. Holding the back, we can just unscrew it. With that out, we can separate them too, so that there's the inner and outer cores. You can go ahead and replace these O-rings if you need. However, mine's not blowing, so I'm going to leave them as is. I'll probably just clean it up and re-grease it, there's nothing wrong with them. You can take this wheel off as well. If you just take this grub screw out here, you can just pull the wheel off. However, that's just for assembly, you don't really need to do that in servicing. So I'll stick this to one side. Next we'll tackle the reg. Now to get the reg out, you have to take this gauge out. That's done using an 11mm thin spanner. It has to be a thin one, because as you can see there, there's a small raised section where the regulator is installed. So if you go in here with a normal sized spanner, there's a chance you could hit this and damage it. But with a thin one, it's nice and easy. There's the gauge there. While we're here, we'll take the rear gauge off as well. That's done the same way, just with the 11mm spanner, undoing it and unscrewing it. Stick that to one side. We're not going to be taking off the Foster fitting, I don't think we need to. It's not leaking, and they can be pretty tight, so it's not worth taking it out. However, if you do want to take it out, it's done using a 14mm spanner. Get it on there. Then I found the only way to do it is grip this in the vise with some nice rubber padding on either side and give it a nice hard crack loose. You might need to tap it with a little hammer just to shock it loose. I'll also show you how to get to the plenum. Now there's no real reason that you would need to do this other than if you wanted to blank the plenum off. So as you see here, it uses two pins, and I've made up this little tool that just goes in the pins there. Then we can just put a socket on this end and undo it. There we are there. You can see down into the plenum. You also see there's a screw in there, and that's just the slow fill for the regulator gauge at the back here. And there's just a 1.5mm Allen key to undo it, and then you just take it out. However, it's a pretty long thread and you don't really need to take it out, so I'm just going to leave it in. All this screw does is force the air to travel round the screw threads in order to slow the flow of air to the gauge, and basically is just to stop the gauge from blowing out. Right, last but not least is the regulator. The adjuster is taken out using a 2.5mm Allen key, just in the front there. There's the adjuster. And then we can use a 5mm Allen key on the body. There it is there. Be careful obviously, as there can be a Belleville washer stuck to this face. Stick that to one side. Then we can remove the reg piston. I use my little reg puller tool. It just presses over the piston and allows you to pull it out nice and easily. And there's the piston there with the Belvilles all attached. Now I have polished these Belvilles before, so they don't need polishing again. I'll probably just clean everything up, remove all the old grease and oil and put some new stuff on. Looks to be in good condition though, and there's a good view of the piston there. Does have a small dimple in the end of the piston, so I'm going to polish that out. The rifle was left standing for quite some time, so over that time I think there's just been a little dimple put into the end of the reg piston. And there we have a bare block. That's all the important components removed and is ready for a good clean up and a rebuild. I'm not going to take the bottle valve off as it's not leaking. But as you can see there, looks quite nice, just needs a little clean. So I'll do all the work off camera and then I'll bring you back when we're putting it back together again.